Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Perspective Philosophy, where we try to better our perceptions of the world through philosophical discussion. I hope you're all doing well and having a good night tonight. Today, I'm going to be having a conversation with some non-vegans and trying to convince them of the vegan position, educate them on the vegan position, and just animal liberation as a whole. So if that seems interesting to you, then please consider liking and subscribing because it does help the channel. Okay, so I'm going to go and check out Animal Rights Advocates, which is a Discord server on Discord. I'm clearly feeling top notch right now, but I had a spare hour, so I thought I would do this for the animals regardless. So hopefully I can aid anyone who's on the stage already. I know that one of the mods is on there already, and he was hoping for, another person to join. So I'm just going to go and do what I can to help, bolster the vegan resistance. And so hopefully it'll be a good one. I'm going to quickly share this to the server, so on, because I don't think they know yet. Well, I actually haven't told them, so it's very unlikely that they know. But I hope you're all having a good night as well, guys.
If you were
oh my god. Okay, 2 seconds, guys. Okay, so thank you. Okay, if I say your name wrong, I'm really sorry. Ismail, is that right? You just got a McDonald's ad for the stream. You can get a vegan McDonald's, so it's cool. Hello, I hope you're all doing good, man. Okay, so I'm gonna pop by. I actually got a message off one of the mods there. Quick explanation about the stage. Currently aim to have 2 stages running with 2 vegan hosts at a time, so if you ever save 1 stage with 1 person, you can right now with hosts. Anyone with the debate more may change it to stage host soon. The reason we like to have 2 vegan hosts is because stages can last for a few hours, and it's nice to have questions pass off to other hosts during the period. Alright, that's cool. So I'm just going to go on by. What would it be? Like, mosey on down? I'm going to mosey on down. We're going to see how that goes.
So that they grow way more wool than they ever would in nature, and they need to be sheared. So it's very convenient for the industry to create a problem and then use that problem as a reason to continue to perpetrate the industry. We should just stop it. And wool is a very, very unprofitable industry. And in a lot of cases, it's paid based on quantity. So it's not like a flat rate. So there's very, very rarely is there any incentive for people shearing sheep to be slow or gentle or careful with the animals. They're trying to get as much wool as they possibly can. And something else a lot of people don't realize is that just like every other animal, when their wool production declines and they're no longer profitable enough, then they get sent to slaughter as well. And then they just keep breeding younger sheep who will grow more wool more efficiently, more quickly. Hey, Pee-Pee.
Oh, hi. I didn't want to interrupt or anything.
No worries. What's up?
Pretty good. That was a nice explanation of the economics of wool. I like it.
Cheers.
Yeah, so it's how it used to be back in the olden days, right? So back then they had to do that because what else were they going to use? Grass.
Do we live in the olden days?
Well, what are they going to do about it now?
Well, I mean, all of my clothes are made out of plants, right? Hemp, linens, cotton, polyester, acrylic fiber, textiles.
Yeah. So, what I think, this is my personal opinion. So what I think, back then, they used to obviously do that, right? They had nothing else to do. Now we're just keeping it on because they don't really know what to do. That's going to be too much to just change everyone, right? One thing I really hate, right, is when people kill the animals. I don't like that, but that happens a lot. But I don't agree with that. You never know.
But do you not think that do you not think that like some of these like economic changes like happen over time? Like there's economic changes that mean these industries like can be changed. So like look at it like this, like slavery was like a big part of agriculture,
Yeah.
and so was like horse-drawn machinery, and then that was pretty easily replaced with automation, like well with like machinery, and collectivized farming even more so. Like it replaces the need for so much manpower. So it's the same thing with wool. If you think about it like this, right? Wool as a material, don't get me wrong, it is a pretty incredible material, but we have alternatives now. Some of which are better in many ways than wool is in the first place. And if we can't have those alternatives now, then why should we change? Why should we continue and not change our behaviors? Do you see what I mean? Like if we,
yeah, kind of. But what are they going to do now? We're still going to have to shear the sheep because we can't just let them overgrow again.
But the thing is that look at like all of these sheep, right? Like so, like what vegans are doing when we're saying like, all right, well we want to stop with wool. All of those sheep that you think are being sheared and that they're not being killed, they're all going to be killed. There is no industry that houses animals and doesn't kill them. They're all going to die. It's only a matter of time, and it's not a long time that they get. I think it's like 5 years or so.
I'm from Scotland, so obviously haggis. I'm not a big fan of it, but so sheep is also food here, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's food everywhere, but I mean, it doesn't mean that it's right to be food, right? Like, so like,
for example, I'm pretty sure it's in America. It's banned.
Like lamb. I think lamb may be banned. I don't think mutton is.
No, I think sheep. No, that's just haggis actually. But so what I think is, what are the sheep going to do now? Are we just going to let them overgrow?
Well, they're all gonna get killed, man. They're all gonna get killed. That's nothing to do with that. Like they're all like that's the reality of the situation. So as soon as it becomes unprofitable, they're gonna get killed.
But there's a lot of good people who don't do that type of stuff.
Oh no, there isn't.
I understand there's quite a few people who don't do that.
You can't actually like look at it like this. All of these animals require a lot of money to sustain these businesses, right? These are like, as like Hosen was saying there, this business isn't actually that profitable. It's not actually doing that well. Most farmers are requiring heavy subsidization, and the way that subsidies work is based on like quantity produced. So like they try to make as much as possible so that they can claim as much money off the government as possible, right? So if we continue letting this business function, it's a dying business. It's going to die eventually, right? Like that's just kind of capitalism, right? It's just the way it works. It's been propped up by like public support. So if we allow this business to continue, if we allow this exploitation to continue, then all of these animals are going to continue to be birthed. Like remember, like we're actually making these animals in the first place. We're like making these populations. Then we are like torturing them when they're alive. We're like cutting their tails off. Which is without anesthesia. A lot of the time they're beaten and treated and mistreated. And this isn't like uncommon. This is like your run-of-the-mill farm. And then they get sheared pretty brutally in a way that's related to the economics. And then they get sent to slaughter. In which they're killed in some pretty gruesome ways, and that has negative side effects for the animals and the people who are doing it. I don't know if you've seen in the news, we can't even get workers to fill these roles. The job is that bad. Like we're talking about making prisoners do it. It's that bad. No one wants to kill animals, right? Like we're not psychos, but wool demands that these animals get killed. Like because as soon as they're not profitable, they're of no use.
But the thing is, wouldn't it just be easier? So maybe why don't they just do it? Because there's going to be a lot of vegans protesting for it. And probably the police and that doesn't want to deal with them, right? They don't want to deal with anyone, probably. So why don't they just make verified ones? Wouldn't that be more better?
Like some of the verifications are just kind of pointless anyway. It's just like, what, it's just like a slap like of a standard, but that doesn't mean anything. You get these like exposés that come out every year that show like red tractor farms and stuff like that. It's just a lie. If you look at the farms, like, they're awful. It's just a way to get consumers to buy it. It's just a way of getting us to like, oh yeah, well, it's nice. This is a happy cow and not a nasty cow. This is a happy sheep and not like a sheep that's been beaten like horribly. But the reality is that the economic constraints of the business are going to mean that these animals are mistreated. It's a dying business. Why not just have away with it and just replace it with something else?
I get your argument, but so for example, if I haven't seen stuff like that because I'm not obviously vegan. I'm not really what is it called again? A protester, whatever. Right? So I don't really find that stuff out because I didn't. Right? But sorry. So stuff like that. Let's move to something else. Right?
That's fine.
Sorry, I'm getting confused.
No, it's okay. I mean, like, look at it like this. Like, all of these animal products, right? Like, there isn't a single industry that we have that isn't going to cause the suffering and death of animals. And there isn't any reason that we have to do that these days. Like, when we're talking like 21st century, it's outdated. Like, yeah, maybe back in history when times were a lot tougher and there was a lack of resources, maybe, but like not in the 21st century where we've got tropical fruit all year round. Even my grandparents didn't have that. What we have today is a modern miracle in terms of agriculture, in terms of like clothing that's available. We can do totally without animal products, and we can live happily without them. So why don't we, if it's causing so much suffering and so much pain?
Well, right beside a meat factory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care about the animals. I see about
what about your air
10
supply?
trucks a day go in it.
What about
I don't care.
what about your air supply? So like look at it
What?
like this. Like, so you live next to a meat factory, right?
Yeah.
Right, all of that waste from animals, like we're talking like blood, shit, like all of that horrible stuff, that makes its way into the groundwater that you will drink. It makes its way into the air supply because it's a cheaper way of getting rid of it. Like, they always put these factories next to small, like they put them next to usually poor places. They don't really put next to like wealthy, like high tech areas where they're like loads of people are going to be considering like the runoff and the effects.
And there's over probably 5,000 people where I live around here.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 schools. There's a bunch of houses. There's a heap of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, there could be a heap of stuff, but that doesn't mean like look at it like this, right? Like this, like you're Scottish, right?
yeah.
Do you think that there's a difference between like Scotland and Monaco, right? Like the people who
And
own,
also, I've seen them taking all the waste out before. There's even been a spill outside the shopping area.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like look at it like this. Like even if we're beside the animals, I think I'll explain why you should care about the animals in a minute. But if we just put like the ramifications to you and your health alone, right? Like, animal agriculture, like these farms, are associated with what's called zoonotic disease risk. Like COVID-19, that come from animals, right? That's just one example.
Yeah.
But then you've got things like bird flu, swine flu, things like mad cow's disease. All of these, like there's hundreds of them. If you look on the Public Health England, there is actually hundreds of them. Things like the flu as a whole come from animals. Like the common cold come from animals. Tuberculosis. These diseases have come from humans having close proximity with animals, especially bodily fluids, right? So like those local workers are coming into contact, and many of them will get sick from coming into contact with these fluids, and then they will likely, they can likely, if it's a virulent disease, pass it straight on to your local community. And I mean, like, these diseases, like for example bird flu, like H1N1, or H5N1, they had like a mortality rate of about 30%. So COVID has a mortality rate of about 1 to 5%, 15% for over 80s. Whilst some forms of bird flu have a mortality rate of 30% for the general population. That means you're young, right? You've got a chance of fighting it off. But even you will have, let's say, like a 20% chance of just dying. That means 1 in 5 of your friends will die from these diseases, which could be totally avoided.
That's our fault, though. Oh well. Right? So, if I do that, that's my fault for eating meat. I like it. I'm not going to change it.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think that it's a...
I'm not just going to say...
Do you think it's worth it, though?
No.
Do you think it's worth it? Like, do you think that, like, so you could eat something that tastes nice and is vegan, and you really can't get nice tasting vegan food. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that. But you could eat something that tastes nice and is vegan, or you could eat something that tastes, okay, it tastes nice, but it also gives a risk of like dying horribly. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of like how some of these diseases kill you, but it's not nice, man. It's not nice. And all of these workers get that risk as well. Not only that, right? But slaughterhouse facilities, they are so bad. I said like nobody wants to work in them. They don't want to work in them, not because of like just how much stress and strain they put on that, which is considerable, right? Like all workers are exploited, especially in primary industries, but these are placed under like severe stress. And they're killing thousands of animals sometimes a day. Right now, you've got people in your local community that kill things day in and day out for money, right? It does not do well for the human psyche. We have already got psychological studies of the people that work in these facilities are much more likely to commit violent crime. You can see arrest and report rates of violent crime, things like domestic abuse especially, are directly correlated with the size of the facility. So like your local community will face increased violent crime. Things like domestic violence will be higher in your local community just because people are killing animals in it.
That's nothing like here. I can't remember the last time there's even been a murder here.
It doesn't necessarily mean a murder. Like
there's been
like someone just
getting
hit, like someone hitting their girlfriend.
Last time I seen anything like that,
you wouldn't see. They'd usually be in the house. It'd be like
kids. So
it'd be like what I would suggest is looking at the. If you check your local crime statistics, that's where you would get an idea of that, and check for the broader area of where people would be commuting into that facility.
Discord doesn't turn off when I go into Safari, does it?
I don't believe so.
Right, I'll go search it up.
Yeah.
So what do I go on?
It would be like YouGov crime statistics. Like UK, like if you type in your local area and then just crime statistics.
Yeah. Portland. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Too loud. Crime.
But like, oh, 1 second.
So it is. Oh, I gotta go through like 100 different things. Top crime location. There were no crimes. I don't care about that one place. So UK crime statistics and crimes in Portland, Scotland, July 2021. Nothing. That must be unrealistic. Portland, oh shoot.
We don't have to look up the specific crime statistics right now if you don't want to. Like, I'm happy to think that you come from quite a nice area and that you might be fortunate enough to think that it mightn't be that bad. I have no idea. I can't say for your individual area.
Yeah, it's not bad here. I haven't really seen. I think it might just be lucky. I don't know. Because this is probably one of the least roughest place where I live. Oh, there's not really rough places here, really.
In Scotland?
Well, there is a lot of rough places.
I was going to say there's a lot of rough places in Scotland, don't you say? Like the thing is that like most people working in slaughterhouse facilities will be poor. So if you live in a wealthier area, then the people working in the facility won't be from your area. Usually, unless you're in an agricultural area and in which case, like, you might be fortunate enough to have people who are just farmers, but even then, it doesn't do them well. Like it's just people killing day in and day out. It really does not do the human psyche well. Like the average, like so for example, a lot of these workers get what's called it's like a documented mental health disorder called PITS disorder, which is perpetration induced traumatic stress, which is very similar to PTSD, except it comes from perpetrating an act of violence and not necessarily being the victim of an act. So like a lot of the times, like soldiers get this, like Nazi doctors and stuff like that got this. Like a lot, like, people who, engage in violence typically get this. And it comes with a plethora of horrible side effects. People, insomnia, drug abuse, feelings of disintegration, increased likelihood of suicide, conviction rates, like things like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, like loads of, like, addiction in general, loads of stuff. And it's because of what's called psychological disassociation. So most people aren't okay with actually killing animals. Like if you like the average Scot, for example, that I've ever met, isn't like some sort of psycho that doesn't feel bad when like animals get hurt. And when they're killing hundreds of animals a day, they've got to find a way to cope with that. And because their psyche trying to cope with that basically forms a second, like it disassociates with reality. You become numb, you get cold. And because of that, like, you don't actually feel the emotions that you are supposed to feel as a healthy individual. And you start, getting more aggressive. This is how it ends up leading to people being more aggressive and likely to commit crime, because they basically become cold and unempathetic. And we've also got studies showing that even farmers become less empathetic in general, like to humans even, because of how they treat animals. It's just the realization that you can't really, like, harm an individual and also feel for individuals at the same time. You can't harm an animal and then like see a human who's really similar to an animal and then, not make the same sort of inferences. It's even more from the studies we've got, it's even more related to children and women, for the fact that women and children are typically seen as vulnerable, the same as animals. So the way it affects the human psyche is really not good. Like if I was you, like just genuinely for your own benefit, it's just good not to have a slaughterhouse facility anywhere near your home. We're talking groundwater pollution, air pollution, increased risk of zoonotic diseases, and increased risk of violent criminals, and people who are just genuinely suffering just because they're trying to do a job. They're bad places, man. Just for humans alone.
I don't think it affects anyone here.
Oh, I bet it does. It really will do, man.
There's literally...
Feel my balls, man.
There's a bunch of kids everywhere.
Okay.
Right? So, I don't really think that it is. So, if you think about it, what's that going to do? Is our own fault for deciding to live here. And plus, I think...
Well, did your family live there before? Like look at it like this. That slaughterhouse facility, right, is like a business that has propped up that facility in your area to make money. That's not like your fault for living where you do. That's their fault for engaging in that activity. Now, if you were to say like, if you engage, like if you buy the products, it's your fault. Yeah, I'm saying, why would you want to do that? Like, you could avoid it.
I'm pretty sure it used to be there before most of the houses were here. Because where I live, all the houses are probably only built 5 years ago or something.
What?
6, 7,
the whole
maybe.
5,000 people moved to an area in Scotland 5 years ago.
Like I'm in an area where like new.
Your estate.
Like, so the bit where I am is a bit big.
Like,
so
I will
there's
say,
old houses and new houses.
Yeah, it's the people in the old houses, right? Like, so I've like, like council estates, things like that. Like where I used to live, there was like used to be like the new houses at the top of the estate and then the old houses at the bottom, right? And there was a very stark difference between what was the old houses and the new houses, right? The people in the old houses had a very different life, a very middle class life compared to the people in the old houses. One second, I'm gonna have to quickly answer this.
Well, mm, oh,
I think it might be a good opportunity here to maybe move on to the next person in queue as well.
well,
We got about 20 people in queue at the moment. I don't want to cut your discussion off short, so I'll wait for PP to come back. But I think we should probably wrap this up here and move on to the next one in queue. Don't want to keep someone up here for too long. We have a lot of people that would probably like the opportunity to get up here. So, I guess was there any last minute questions, comments, concerns you had for us, Hyler?
sorry. What did you say?
Did you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns for us?
Yeah, actually. So at the place, the shop was recently redone, and there's normally a massive queue outside. So obviously people really don't care. And I saw about 20 kids one day. It was quite a big queue. It was like probably 2 weeks after it reopened, so that's probably why. But there's normally queues there. Another thing is, sorry, I forgot. Oh yeah, so obviously, and I think that place was built definitely before, because if it's had enough time to have bushes grown everywhere, like ones you can tell obviously grew by themselves, right?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what we're talking about here.
It's probably the mic. I don't know. I forgot. I'll think about something else to talk about. No, I'll just leave it here. Bye.
Oh. All right, then I guess we'll call up the next person. And once again, as a reminder, we are prioritizing people in queue who are in the server and are verified as a vegan or non-vegan. We welcome you all. Verification just takes a sec, and we have 22 people in queue right now, the majority of whom are not verified. So if you'd like to likely cut a significant weight off of your queue time, feel free to hop in. What's up, Lonely?
Hi. So
Hi.
I'm not vegan myself, but my sister is vegan, and I'm quite interested in the lifestyle of being vegan and your perspective of being vegan and people who are not vegan. So I just wanted to sort of gain some knowledge.
Sure. That's what we're here for. What's up?
So what I don't really understand is there are some vegans who will say you cannot eat meat, it's not your choice, you have to go vegan, and that's what I don't understand, because what I believe is that everybody should have their own personal rights, but there are some vegans saying you don't have any rights and you must follow this vegan lifestyle.
Yeah. And so, well, the question is, what about the rights or interests of the victims of those choices, right? Like when we consider personal choices, we would consider a personal choice to be something like, I like to wear this hat because it looks well with this jacket or something like that. Or I prefer sweet foods over spicy foods. But what we would not consider a personal choice is something that involves a victim or harms someone else, right? So, like, if you really wanted to argue that route, you could say it's my personal choice to beat my dog. It's my personal choice to kick children on the playground, right? But I don't think that we would accept that as an actual argument or like a moral justification or anything like that. So if someone has the opportunity to divest from a system of oppression that results in and necessitates animals being killed against their will, then I think that our stance is that you absolutely should divest from that, right? Because otherwise you are contributing to a moral atrocity.
Yeah, I do. That did actually really help. But I do have another question. I have well, not me, my sister and most of my family have this condition where they need to have meat in their diet. They need to have the things that come from meat in their diet.
Interesting. And what condition would that be?
You beat us to it.
I don't remember exactly what it's called because I'm not too involved in it myself. It's like my father family. So my stepsister has it and my sister have it, but I don't really talk to them, so I don't really know what it's called. All I know is that they need to have meat in their diet.
Do you know?
So I was just thinking, would it be possible for somebody with that sort of medical condition to like be a vegan?
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think I've ever heard of a condition that actually necessitates. Like, I've heard a few people say this before, but I've never heard anyone actually mention a condition that necessitates it. Like, there's certain, like, you can get everything. Like, look at it like this: the animal's got all of those nutrients that you consume from plants, and a lot of the time, you can just take those plants or plants that have similar nutrients and get the exact same, the exact same effects. There's a few conditions that might mean you struggle to absorb or produce certain nutrients. For example, some people struggle to convert like ALA to DHA. So that's like omega-3s. But you can just like you can get that from things like algae. You can get it from like mushrooms and stuff. Not mushrooms. I'm trying to think. Where was that? I can't remember what the other DHA supplement was. I can't remember. But you can get like vegan supplements for it. And it's no problem. You can get them over the counter, and pretty much everyone should probably be taking one anyway. Where diets are really high in like omega-6s because we eat a lot of fat, so everyone should probably be having like DHA in their diet anyway. So like some certain things like that, like some people struggle absorbing kinds of B12, some people struggle absorbing some kinds of omega-3s, but you can kind of just work around that. There's never really like a condition that necessitates the consumption of like meat. I've never heard of one.
Okay. That may I'm starting to make sense of it more now. Like I understand sort of the lifestyle of vegans, about how like you have this opinion where you believe that like animals are being slaughtered against their will, and like I completely respect your opinion, but my opinion is that I enjoy eating meat, so I will continue to eat meat.
Do you think that opinions? Do you think that it's about opinion, or do you think that it's about facts? Because I think it's about facts, and I think that the fact is that animals don't want to be killed. I think that we all know that animals suffer and die needlessly, and that our actions are causing the harm to these animals when we buy these products. And that's not like an opinion; that's a fact. It might be your opinion that you like the taste of meat, but it's not an opinion that your actions have consequences. Like if it was my opinion that I like beating children, it doesn't mean that children aren't hurt when I beat them, you know?
Yeah. Like how I've been raised in my family is my family. We are in quite like a wooded area. There's a lot of farms where we are. There's a lot of sort of that thing.
I will say like this. Look, I think your mic's cut out there. But like all of us are raised as meat eaters. Like Hudson, were you born a vegan?
No, I was literally raised on a farm.
Raised on a farm as well. Oh, that's interesting. Like there's farmers that have went vegan now, because they realize that it's not just. Oh, I think she might have had some mic troubles there.
Oh, no worries. Guess we'll call the next one up then. Red Milkman. Hello. Hello?
Hello, man. I think you're muting yourself. There you go.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
What's up?
So, as the last person was saying, yeah, I have some sort of thing where I need a certain nutrients. that
Which nutrient?
company. I mean, I'm fairly new to being vegan, and I don't know what vegan products have the same nutrients, and that's why I'm here. I ask about
Yeah,
what
man.
sort of what is like. It's called like it's spelled SAWCDN. I didn't know I had it until recently.
What is it?
SAWCDN, sock DN.
Sock them.
Yeah,
As in, like, the political stance.
no, like sock DN. That's it shortened down. Do you want me to say the real, like, what it's actually?
Yeah,
For you?
if you wouldn't mind.
What?
Yes. Please.
Okay. Right. So it's I need to remember it here. It's quite long. Something. It's like, yeah. So it's a bit confusing because I've only recently found out that I have it, and yeah. I mean,
Oh, dropped out. Was he Northern Irish, by the way? That sounded like Northern Irish, right?
Not sure.
Oh, I think it. Love Irish accents, man. Very nice. Lucky people. Just invite the
Oh.
next. I was going to say. Is he back?
Yeah.
Or I was just invite
At any
them.
rate, no, I don't see them in queue. So,
Well,
well, the next person in queue was verified vegan. Hog. Come on up, Kaz. What's up?
Oh, it's better now.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Hey, Ryan. This is actually a question for either of you. I know one person here believes in objective morality. Do you?
I believe in objective morality. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Now, do you believe it is objectively wrong for
Excuse me.
somebody to buy animal products for somebody else, say a family member?
Yeah, probably. I think that I think like just as it would be wrong to be a hitman or something, like someone paying you to kill someone else or something, just because there's like the distance doesn't take the responsibility away from your actions, right?
Yeah, no, I kind of get what you're saying. The thing is, though, does it really depend upon the person's situation as well? Or you believe it's kind of just wrong regardless?
Well, I think everything's contextual. Like I don't think so. Like I think that there is a way of looking at the world in which we can recognize that, you know, even like the most stringent deontologist, like someone like Immanuel
Yeah.
Kant, would even say like ought implies can. So like what they can do
Yeah.
implies what they ought to do. But like no, I think that like yeah, it's definitely contextual. But like I can't think of a context off the top of my head which would necessitate you buying, you know, meat, dairy, or eggs for a family member or something, unless it was like that family member's holding you to ransom. Like if you don't do it, then
Right.
you're going to be like deprived of something else.
Would it be in the same situation if you let somebody buy them for a fellow family member? See,
Sorry.
because I mean, I'm in the situation where I am kind of in a bit of a tug of war with myself, which I am not sure whether it is vegan for me to allow family members to buy each other non-vegan products.
I don't think that you can stop them without impeding upon their liberty. I mean, if they're like, so for example, if they're like your kids, then
Yeah.
like, is it your kids? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's one, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, I feel for you, man. Like, yeah, I guess you trying to force them to stop. Like there's no such thing as like moral. You can't force moral progress. You can't actually, like force
Yeah.
someone to you know not buy those things and make them actually, you know, you just will be vegan. But you can like I
Yeah.
think that you're free to
I
control your
understand.
house. I think that your house, for example, it's your rules. So if it's happening outside, I think that, or if it's happening like if it's one of your younger kids or something,
Yeah.
then you say like, look, like they're like you're like, you know, you're not their parent, I am, and I think this is the right thing. You know, I'm not going to let you like you're not allowed to parent them in that respect, and I think that's just a matter of respecting you as a father, and not necessarily even about anything to do with you know, like, so for example, if there were like, let's say like you know, if somebody else, if you were to make a you know, position on, like, let's say a video game, and it was like, oh, I think this video game is just too old for them, I don't, or like too explicit or something, I don't want them playing it, and then they bought them it anyway, you'd be like, whoa, you know, what are you doing? It's my house, it's my rules, my kid, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying completely. I suppose I'm just in a situation where, and I'm not making excuses for myself, but I just physically do rely on other people to do certain things for me. Well, at least at the moment. So it's kind of, well, it's a bit subjective for me anyway. So I suppose that's what you meant, but you know, it depends upon the context of the person.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it depends. Is there so are you saying that you're dependent on others, and so like enforcing it would be a bit of an issue?
Well, to a certain extent, yes.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's like that. I would say that's like just recognizing like we all have limitations to like our ability to influence the world and like the positions we're placed in, right? Like, if you're saying that you like that, like, I would just try to convince them with like, just talk to them first, like, you know, rather than try to.
Well, see, that's the thing. I've kind of like, I think somebody here mentioned that a lot of people that are vegan are very silent about it, and I can kind of feel that. Well, I do completely 100% feel that, because I haven't really mentioned a lot to my parents or to my family, and I've been really debating to myself whether I should or not.
Honestly, it was difficult to make. I mean, I struggled coming out to my friends as vegan.
Yeah.
I would honestly, I think, you know, people say it's hard to come out as gay. I think I would have much preferred to come out as gay to my friends than come out as vegan. But I think I really struggled, and you know, some of them weren't, you know, good. Some of them were, but ultimately they all come to accept it. And, you know, it comes to the point of like whether you are being authentic in yourself. Like, if you can't be yourself around those people, then do you really feel that you are, you know, are you free? Are you not like being controlled in some respect? Not deliberately, like they're not like, you know, controlling you, but you're being disciplined. And I think that you've got to be able to stand firm with your beliefs. Like, if you were to have a certain religion, you should be able to tell your friends and family about that. And I think, like, if you have a certain ethical stance, you should be able to tell your friends and family about that. I think it's important that your friends and family, that you can be yourself around your friends and your family. Because if you can't, then who can you be yourself around? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. I suppose it really just depends upon the family. I have 3 sisters, so it's a very conflictless. Nobody likes conflict. You know what I mean? Like, I think men prefer conflict more than women. I think when it comes to ethical vegans, I think it is very similar. I think more ethical vegans are men rather than women, or at least the ratio is a bit different. I think a lot of women actually prefer to go down the route of less conflict, that's maybe health or diet.
You mean like how we advocate? I mean, I've met a lot of ethical vegan women, to be honest. I think that I find that, like, you're more likely to find that I think men are more willing to advocate, but I think women are more likely to actually make the change, which is like kind of a, you know, and I think that just kind of tells a lot about how our psyches have developed. I think women are more rational in that sense. And you know, maybe it's more like emotive sometimes, but I think more rational in the sense that I don't think that their identity's ever been tied as heavily to animal products as much as it has been for men. Men in our society, it's like meat is masculine, isn't it?
It kind of gets tricky in the sense that do you believe purchasing products from a say a supermarket that's not vegan is wrong?
No, I don't think that's wrong. I think that it's necessary anyway, because you don't want, like, there is a separation between, like, for example, I'm a socialist, but I think veganism and socialism are two separate movements, and I think veganism is far more achievable and far more immediate even than socialism. And I say that, reluctantly, because I really care about, people. uh, but I think, when you're advocating for the change of an entire economic system, every single market, that's really difficult. But vegans are just trying to attack one specific sector. And if you try and, make veganism like you only shop in vegan shops, you only go to vegan, establishments, then you're not going to allow those already established corporations to change, and you're going to back them into a corner. And what we're going to find is massive media campaigns against veganism. We're going to make really powerful and prolific enemies, and we don't need that. Why come into conflict with them when they can actually use them as a means to establish veganism? Like, for example, like my girlfriend's right now is eating a Papa John's, right? Like a vegan Papa John's. Like,
Yeah, sure.
like there is a vegan pizza place. It actually was closed, but if give them the opportunity to develop into a vegan business, then we are much more likely to succeed.
I mean, that's actually an interesting thing. Has your girlfriend always been vegan?
My girlfriend's been vegan now for 7 years, nearly 7, 6
So
years for me.
when you-
7 years.
You've been vegan, if I can remember correctly, I don't know, close to 10 years or 8 years or something.
Oh yeah, that's sweet, man.
Oh, is that okay? Well, oh no, I was actually talking about me. I was actually talking about you. I think you've been vegan for what, more than 5 years, I think.
6
somebody
now.
mentioned
6
to
now.
me.
Yeah,
6,
yeah,
okay.
six. The 4th of June. That's me like veganiversary. 2015.
I mean, yeah, I mean that kind of is interesting. Oh, so okay, if your girlfriend's been vegan for 7 years, that means, well, when you met her, she
was vegan. Yeah. So like when I met her, she was vegan, and the thing is that she's not philosophical, right? So
Yeah, okay.
well, you're all right anyway. But the thing is that she's just not happy I said that. But like our arguments were so. Well, they were. Anyway, so like she didn't really argue with us. She didn't even try. She just didn't even bother. Because she just thought I was gonna be like at first we had some conflicts, but it was just not. Like, there was only one real argument where we're like, if we ever have kids, like, would they be vegan? And I was, at that point, I was like, absolutely not. That is ridiculous, And I'm like, protein. This is ridiculous. How would our children get protein? What about my protein? I can't eat carbohydrates. Anyway, so like that's kind of the arguments that we used to have, but not really. Like she kind of took a passive approach, and I would cook for her and me, and a lot of the time when I would cook, I would just eat the same thing, and I'd be like, well, wait a minute, this isn't too bad, and then.
I kind of get what you're saying, because I mean, like, I'm in a sort of, well, a shitload more trickier position than you, but my wife tried to go vegan when I went vegan, but it didn't work out. I think her hair fell out a little bit, and I suppose for a woman that kind of is a bit more of a red flag.
She's just done it wrong, man. That's just straight up like done it wrong, hasn't she?
It's like something to do with fats or something like that. Not eating enough protein or fats, or
yeah, you can easily sort that out though. Like,
oh no, I know you can definitely get protein with beans, and tofu has a lot of protein.
And even the
So
fat,
there's-
man. Like, if you want to eat fat, like fat is no problem. Like, I mean, I can go and buy a bottle of fat. Like,
It's
you
a
know,
like walnuts that you'd sort of probably recommend walnuts, avocado, things
Yeah.
like that.
I would whole
for fats,
food fats, yeah, really. But I mean, like, even if you're like, let's say you wanted to, let's say you wanted to supplement, like I was talking to the other person, like, if you want to supplement certain like omega-3s and stuff like that, if you wanted to, that's fair enough, It's really like you can get you can get hair and nail vitamins that are vegan now, like just tablets for your
Oh.
hair and nail.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
I mean, what really is, I suppose I mean, look, would you get married to somebody who is vegetarian, who's not vegan? Would you do that?
Well,
Hell no.
I think my girlfriend would be mad if I got married to a vegetarian. No,
A hypothetical
I know,
situation.
I'm joking.
I know.
Hey. Well, I wouldn't do it anyway, would I? No, I probably wouldn't. I think one, because I would be incredibly frustrated on a day-to-day basis, because I think vegetarians frustrate me more than meat eaters, for one, because I just see it as like incredibly hypocritical. Like conceptually, if you care about animals, then why aren't you vegan? But
Yeah.
but then, like with a meat eater, a lot of the time I put it down to
Sorry.
ignorance, and I think they can change.
I know your girlfriend's probably going to get pissed off at me if she can hear me, but if she turned vegetarian, right, say 3 years after you get married, would you consider getting a divorce? I know I'm not saying that would happen or anything, like, but
Here's the
just
thing.
the idea of it. I mean, would you?
I'll ask her the other way around. Wait a minute, one second. I'll ask her.
Yeah.
Laura, if I went vegetarian in 3 years, let's say we get married, and I went vegetarian in 3 years, would you divorce us? Yes. Okay. She divorced me.
Oh shit. Okay.
I like, to be honest, I would divorce you. Bye. Sorry about that.
It's actually a fun question. I guess Hey, Molly. The question is, if we were to get married and if I were to go vegetarian, would you divorce me? Oh, she's thinking. She said she'd have to milk me and take my eggs and see how I like it. I would divorce you.
It's a
for
tricky
sure.
one to admit.
I think it's
I
one of.
suppose, like,
I was just gonna say, my girlfriend actually did this as an April Fool's once to us, and I totally didn't realize. Right, I didn't clock on. She just went, Lewis, I'm eating. What was it? Did you say you were eating? I can't remember what you said you were eating, and that you weren't vegan anymore. And that you're not okay. And I was like, are you okay? I was like, oh my God, I'm going to come straight over. I thought you was having like some sort of mental breakdown. And I was like, you know, I just thought you'd totally lost that mind. It turned out to be like the 1st of April, didn't it? Like,
yeah, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know it's not 1st of April, but things like Halloween, you know, special occasions when you got a child, I suppose it kind of, well, I know from experience it is very tricky. I know earlier you said that you feel for me in the sense that having a kid, it's very challenging at times, especially obviously if they're not vegan or don't agree with you. I suppose, I mean, when it comes to things like that, I just hold the position that people have got to learn from their mistakes.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, like, I don't think you have to abandon a relationship if like your partner's not vegan and you go vegan or anything like that. But I think, like, for example, I think that like I could probably speak for Hudson as well. That like if you're both vegan and you're both ethical vegans already, if your partner stops being an ethical vegan, then that seems like a massive change in who they are. So you would be like, who am I even with anymore? You know, and that would be the kind of shock factor in it, where you'd be like, whoa, like that's why I was like, I thought my girlfriend had lost her mind when she was saying it, because it's just like it was so it would be so out of character.
Yeah.
And I think that like it's the same thing. It's like if you believe that your partner can change, and you know you want to help them change, absolutely. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's like a matter of time and stuff. All you can do is just try and educate them and try and show them the way, right?
I would probably say that my wife would go, and she was actually, shit, what is it called? You might be able to help us out. Lacto vegetarian, I think.
Yeah,
Is that the one
lacto-ovo
with
vegetarian and stuff. Yeah, like
yeah, that's the most closest one to veganism, isn't it? Or a plant-based diet.
well, like I think like has you seen like the harm that it does? Have you showed her like the documentaries and stuff?
We watched Earthlings. Ironically, I didn't really give a shit about Earthlings, and I watched it with her because she wanted to watch it. And then when I went out to get my dinner, like a steak or something, I just couldn't eat it because it made me feel sick. And then I decided to watch all the documentaries, every single one of them, but she did not want to watch it, which is
Well,
interesting.
have you know Gary Yourofsky's really good. I really like Gary Yourofsky.
Yeah.
He was like really influential for me.
I know a lot of people who's gone vegan because of his speech. So
Yeah.
I listened to it after the fact. But yeah, you're right. It is a non-graphic type video that would definitely suit probably a lot of women.
Yeah,
I'd say.
and not just that. I think that one of the arguments that he brings up, I think, is really good, which is just like, look, if it's not good enough for your eyes, why is it good enough for your stomach? So when people are unwilling to watch these documentaries, you just got to like ask them, like, are you, if you're hiding from the documentary, then how can you confront your dinner? You know, and it's just like it's willful ignorance. And if you just make them aware of that, like it's you know the harm that it's causing here. You're scared to see the harm that you're causing, but you're gonna like whether you see it or not, you're gonna cause it. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's the first probably the only only video I actively gave my mum was forks over knives, I think, because obviously she was concerned about whether you get enough protein or that shit.
My mom's
So
vegan now.
obviously that's probably I'm guessing that's a concern for a large majority of people
100%,
who
100%.
to even get on a plant-based diet.
100%, 100%. I think that most people care mostly, but I think documentaries like Forks Over Knives, Game Changers, do a world of good for that.
Yeah, I like Game Changers. That was actually good, and I think that made a lot of people at least get on a plant-based diet.
What the Health is a good one as well, actually.
A lot of people being more open to watching something like that. So you are right with Gary Office's speech as well.
Yeah, What the Health is another good one. Do you know what I mean? And like it might be it might be worth even saying like, like I mean, if your girlfriend like make her aware of like the way that it harms humans and stuff as well, and things like that. Like I did a video back a while ago on slaughterhouse workers, and and like how it harms humanity, and people have no idea how much like these industries even just harm humans. Never mind animals. Like I mean, what happens to animals is obviously a much greater scale and much worse. But even for humans, it's whether it's we're number one killers in terms of like the diseases they cause when we eat them. Whether it's antibiotic resistance, whether it's zoonotic diseases, whether it's the PTSD or like the piss disorder that the slaughterhouse workers get. Like it's just one thing after the other. Where it's like, how can we justify this? You know.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah, just actually the more I think about what you said, the Gary Ofsky speech, that would actually be one that I could definitely pass on, I'd say. I just don't want to become too passive about it.
Yeah.
About veganism in general. That's the only concern. I don't know about yourself, but were you more... I know you like to talk a lot.
What gave me away?
Yeah, were you like that in the beginning? Have you always been like that? Are you the sort of person who just likes to talk, or
I'm pretty sure
you like after a while?
I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD. So like when it comes to liking a talk, it's more like it's harder to get us to shut up than anything else. But like but I think also like I've always had like this kind of like probably again a strong sense of justice, which is another symptom of of like autism, ADHD. And so like if there's like some sort of I don't do small talk. I talk all the time about things like politics, philosophy, and like this is like, so I'll stop being on YouTube or whatever, and then be talking. I'll be walking the dog with my girlfriend, and I'll be explaining to my girlfriend like some sort of political thing that's going on. I'll be like, this is a travesty.
Oh God, same.
I mean, that's probably, you mentioned YouTube. Is that how you came across Kane B? Because I remember that discussion.
Yeah. Kane B's a really smart guy. I think that me and him talk to each other. I think I definitely need to refine how I talk in general, but especially the analytic philosophers. It's like we're talking a very separate language where I've got to like if I was to talk to a continental, it's like, all right, well, you know this person, right? You know this concept, right? And you can kind of just rely on the fact that they know it already. But when you're talking to an analytic philosopher, we're talking like we're basically talking in two separate fields. They learn one set of philosophers and we learn another. So you end up having to basically teach each other and like, or like kind of establish a way of communication. So talking to Kane B I think he's a really nice guy. I think he's a very smart guy. I think
he's actually quite good. I've learned probably a lot about him off him. Sorry. So yeah, no, I think he's good at kind of expressing himself and kind of talking to just your average person who might not be into philosophy too deep.
Yeah, exactly. I think that like something that I certainly need to better myself at. I think like what I've found is that I talk in esoteric language when I talk like in meta, like if I go to meta ethics or something. I struggle to put that in like normal human words. And it's not something I want to get better at. But I think it comes with practice and skill. I think one of the things I was going to do was just read some more, because I've been reading for years now. A lot of older philosophers, and the way they talk is, especially in the 18th and 19th century, the way they talk is just maddening. They talk in an absolute like the way they talk is just insane. And I now talk like that as a human, and I feel like that is like one of my friends was like,
I forgot what book, but one of David Hume's books that's really difficult to read.
What, like the inquiries are like because like David Hume, like the two most prevalent ones are like the inquiries on human understanding and was it a treatise or the treatise. I think that like David Hume's really good. He's hard in some respects. I think Hume though, like some of the Continentals, man, like it is. I mean, it is actually another language, so like it's been translated, so that adds like another layer. But like the some of the ways they talk is just absolutely mental. Like Hegel speaks in a way that is like the most. Everyone who picks up Hegel usually is just like, what is going on here? Immanuel Kant is the same.
Have you always been into Hegel and objective morality? Or is it something you just picked up over time?
So I began. I used to be a Catholic, and my notion of objective morality was very much religiously based. Then when I engaged with the concept in terms of religion, I found myself less convinced about like the sort of religious arguments in philosophy, and moved away. But picked up philosophy like, Immanuel Kant, and thought that the Kantian position, so I learned like Kant and Nietzsche at the same time, and thought that the Kantian position could be defended against Nietzsche. And then I moved from that to Hegel, because I realized that Kant was really not good enough. So by in degree, at least by the time second year degree, I was like a Hegelian. And I've yet to really find an argument that's moved us from that position. I do extensive research on it. I've come across loads of anti-moral arguments. I just don't find any of them convincing. I think that
what do you think the best? Sorry, what do you think the best argument for subjective morality?
I think the best argument. I think the best arguments are presented by Nietzsche. I think Nietzsche's things like the genealogy of morality. And like where he's arguing that there is sort of power, like the way that power has influenced the development of ethics in our institutions could mean that the way that we reason in and of itself is bias. So like we are now incapable, and so, like if truth was a currency, then we're now incapable of actually coming to a notion of truth that isn't actually expressing just one will over another. But then I think that implies kind of an individualistic understanding of the self. And I think that that's the mistake he makes. So I think Nietzsche, in terms of Kant, I think Nietzsche rips Kant apart. I think that he absolutely has destroyed like the Kantian position, the Christian position in that respect, or like Christian positions and so on in that respect. But only if you don't understand the metaphysics of the self, which is explained better in Hegelian philosophy through the process of recognition.
When it came to Nietzsche, was he a determinist?
I wouldn't have. I mean, there's like I wouldn't have. I'm trying to actually think now, because Nietzsche isn't really. I don't think I would call him a determinist. I don't think I would. No, I'm actually trying to think now. Would Nietzsche consider a determinist? I mean, the eternal reoccurrence of the same, but like it depends on whether he. I don't think he's like a material determinist. No, I don't. I wouldn't say that he was. No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Right.
I'll have to double check that. I will have to double check that because it's been a while, but I don't think so.
I haven't really put any thought about that. I mean, the first thing I suppose I thought about when you mentioned Kant was the transcendental idealism, and just sort of other positions that Kant and Nietzsche would hold. So, I mean, was Nietzsche a materialist?
No,
I'm
well,
guessing.
from what I'm understanding, like from what I remember of Nietzsche, he's very much inspired by Schopenhauer. I don't think he was a materialist in that respect. I'm trying to remember Nietzsche's metaphysics now. He's trying to like this is going back a few years. So I don't think that Nietzsche is a materialist at all. I think in general, I think that he would position truth as a currency that exists between individuals who are willing the metaphysical reality that we exist in to produce appearances. So I certainly don't think that I would consider him a materialist. He's not arguing for some sort of empiricism. He's actually arguing that reality is a constitution of will on a subjective basis, and a contest of wills. And this is where we get he's like aesthetic idealism, not aesthetic idealism. Yeah, he's aesthetic ideals. So his aesthetic ideals are the appearances from which we live. So like we see the world through the ideologies that permeate our cultures, that like kind of are a variation of wills that kind of move through us a lot of the time. But he wants us to kind of cast off these chains and take responsibility for these these norms and try to will ourselves to power almost. And so it becomes a way of not necessarily moving out of appearances, but taking control of the appearances themselves. If truth is a currency, then accumulate wealth, I think would be the best way to kind of characterize Nietzsche.
Okay, well, a bit of that went over my head, but I kind of got the idea. I mean, I thought when it came to idealism and idealism in general, that there was only really one sort, but it sounds like there are almost like a false dichotomy type thing to hold the position as either idealism or shit off the top of my head.
Materialism or
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's actually a weird kind of combination between these two. In like, for example, Paulo Verno, right? So he's like a more yeah. I think we can probably move on to the next person as well. I'm probably gonna have to go Hudson as well.
Get a drink anyway. I got a flu, so yeah.
Yeah,
no worries.
but I
Well,
will say this.
Yeah.
Just to say, there is a few different forms of idealism and stuff. So for example, Hegel's like an absolute idealist. Kant's a transcendental idealist, but he's a realist, and he does believe in a material existence. He's trying to justify, the philosophy of people like, not the philosophy, like the positions of people like Newton. So he's not necessarily against a material existence. He just doesn't think that we can know a material existence without the application of a certain concept applied by mind. So he actually even rejected the being called an idealist. Actually, Kant. He said that he wasn't, but then he would accept transcendental idealist. After Kant, there was Schelling, Fichte, and Hegel, who kind of went, well, especially Hegel's very idealist, and Schelling and Fichte were kind of going that way as well. And then Schopenhauer was a subjective idealist, and he took a Kantian position and understood it to be the world to be a manifestation of mind individualistically, and all there is will and representation. And then Nietzsche read Schopenhauer. He saw Schopenhauer as his kind of like mentor, and he took a very Schopenhauerian position and built on that. Except he thought Schopenhauer was just a pessimist who found his happiness in his own misery, and then kind of boiled it all down to the will to power and contests of wills, trying to construct reality. And this is kind of the foundations of where we get, in some respects, postmodernism, where it all becomes like appearances, and that's what we're kind of talking about. So yeah.
All right, no worries, man. I'll talk to my wife about all that shit you said before. Maybe show that Gary Yoffsky video, and look into that idealism versus materialism. about the nuances of that.
Yeah, you are you Australian, by the way?
Yeah, and I'm Australian.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
so.
not
Your voice sounds
Australian.
unbelievably familiar. I think it might just be because I'm just associating you with like James Aspie or something.
Yeah, that's what I get told all the time. I don't really think he's sounds like me, but he is from Queensland, so it's kind of similar accent.
I think it's the same kind of like depth of your voice as well. You're like in the same sort of like vocal registry. You're like both very deep voices, so it's like, you know, you've just got an Australian accent and you've got a deep voice. James Aspie. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'll keep that in mind. Cheers, man.
Take it easy, mate.
You both have a good night, I suppose, and yeah, sounds good.
Take it easy, man. And Hodson as well. I'm gonna have to bounce. Thanks very much for having us on.
Yeah.
And take it easy. I hope you have a good one. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
You too. Take it easy, guys.
Okay, right. So I'm gonna have to bounce, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of vegan activism. The main difference between subjective idealism and absolute idealism is basically how mind constitutes reality. Subjective idealism, it comes from a subjective will. In absolute idealism, the will is an objective, or like the consciousness is an objective reality, which is instanced in the individual, not only individuals who are living in their own worlds. It'd be like a movement from something like a Berkeleyan account, for example. And although Berkeley had like an objective idealistic kind of framework as well because of God, kind of just threw God in there, but from a Berkeleyan account to a Hegelian account, which is like individuals are actually expressions of a universal mind. And thank you all for watching. If you like the stream, please consider subscribing. And thank you very much, Michael Askew, for donating, saying you're doing sterling work, sir. Keep up the excellent approach to vegan activism, PP. Thank you very much, Michael. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for assisting in me making these streams, and you're very much appreciated. I hope you all have a lovely night, and as always,